Hello, everyone. Welcome. We'll get started in just a few minutes.
Hello, everyone. Just while you're joining, maybe enter in the chat where you're joining from.
We'll get started in just another minute or two to give everyone a chance to join. I hope everyone's having a great BB Dev Days, day 2. That you're getting an opportunity to learn and share a lot of good information. We're glad to have you join us this afternoon. We'll get started in just another minute. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Right, I see we still have people joining. I'll give it a few more seconds before we get started. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Judy Spigarelli. I'm a customer success manager here at Blackbaud, and I'm really excited to introduce Sarah Lesh, who's going to be our presenter for this afternoon. A couple of quick things. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A section. I'll gather those questions and we'll get to them at the end. So it would be helpful as you're putting in your question to just let us know rather than something like, what does that mean? Just spell out your question a little bit more so that we're able to get back to that. And a little special shout out to New Hampshire. That's where I was born and raised. So great to have you join us. Sarah, I will go ahead and let you take it away.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Judy, and everyone for joining. I'm very excited to deep dive into some customizations we did for Luminate Online events. So we did kind of a high-level session yesterday where we chatted through some customizations that we've done across different Luminate Online events. And then today, I chose one of those and we're deep diving into how we did it. So excited to dive deep with you guys. We'll be talking about how to integrate Pay Now and Pay Later into the same Luminate Online event. Before we do that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Sarah Lesh. I am the Director of Web Development and Tech Solutions at Doing Good Digital. We are an agency that works with anything digital fundraising, and we do a lot of stuff in Illuminate Online, specifically customizing people's Illuminate Onlines either to better fit their brand or to better fit their functional needs they're looking for. So me and my team are super skilled in taking what already exists in Illuminate Online and making it even better and greater, and the data collected better and all that great stuff. And then the stuff we'll be talking about today, my dev team kind of really worked hard on putting it all together. So excited to just share some of the cool things my team does on a day-to-day basis. I think they really do some awesome work. I myself am based in Toronto, Canada, but work with teams both in Canada, in the US, and in other parts of the world. And I've been in the technical end of digital fundraising for the past almost 11 years, which is wild. So I've seen a whole bunch of stuff come through, and I'm excited to continue learning. There's been so much cool stuff to learn already today. So yeah. Okay, what are we talking about today? So we're first going to just talk about ticketing in Luminate Online, RSVPing in Luminate Online. Then we're going to be talking specifically about Pay Now and Pay Later and why this would be needed. Then I'm going to show you what we're going to build together today. And then we'll walk through how that is set up in the Luminate Online backend. And then we'll also walk through the JavaScript and CSS to make that work. So that we're going to kind of walk away with a full, complete working thing. And I will note that I will be sharing some code today. So I will be sharing some JavaScript and CSS that we'll work through together today. If you are like interested in getting the code that I'm working on to get today, I'll share my email at the very end, and you can email me and I'll send you like the final version of the code. So you don't have to like scramble to write everything down if that's what you were thinking about doing. Feel free to just email me and I can send that over. Okay, so let's talk about ticketing and RSVP events. So if you are familiar with the Luminate Online event calendar system, you know there's a few different types of events. There's ticketed events. So those events are events that you can, of course, sell tickets to. And then there's RSVP events. There's also a few other types of events, but there's also RSVP events where you're not selling tickets, you're just asking for people to RSVP to an event. So usually that acts as like two separate things. Today we're going to be talking about bringing those two things together. So I'll share an example of where this was done in real life, so you can kind of like wrap your head around that. So let me share this event here. So this is an event that we built for NYU Langone Health. And we have done a whole bunch of stuff to customize this event, but what we're going to be talking about today is, let's say I add a couple of tickets here, and my price for these tickets is $7,000. And then I would fill out all this information here. I scroll down and I have the option to buy these tickets now. So just put my credit card down and pay now, or just RSVP for this event and then pay later. And if I do that, I'm assuming that this is going to go to a list of different users that an admin can follow up with later. So they can email everyone who's kind of done this RSVP and pay later and say, hey, you're interested in coming to this event, you haven't actually bought tickets yet, please do so. Or there will be some sort of process there to do that. Okay. So why is this something that people want? So we did talk about this a little bit yesterday at the calendar event, or at the talk I did yesterday. But in case you weren't there, there are a couple of reasons that we'd want to implement this. So one, of course, it just offers flexibility. So as you saw, that event that we built out, just the tickets alone, not even the sponsorships, were $7,000. So it's a pretty hefty price to come to that event. So we wanted to give people the option to tell us they're interested in coming, but not have to necessarily put their credit card down. Maybe they need further approvals just to make sure, or maybe they don't quite have all the information yet or something like that. So we wanted to make sure that we built out both options. We also wanted to make sure that we captured the interest of people who weren't ready to pay. So maybe people are RSVPing, but they aren't fully necessarily ready. They're not like, yes, I'm 100% coming, but let me RSVP. We wanted to capture those interests so that we could then follow up with them later. And then the final and kind of one of the big reasons we did this is that we actually had sponsorship levels that were over the $200,000 credit card transaction limit in Luminate Online. So if there were sponsorship levels that were like 200 and above, I think there were some of them were $300,000. So those would actually just not even be able to pay now, and we didn't want that to be a confusing interaction. So anytime anyone wanted to sponsor at that level, the only option they got was RSVP and pay later. And this isn't like marketing your events like this isn't a new idea. This has been done before, and our clients here did do this before. But what they had done in the past is just create two separate links for this. So either they would send one link that were buy tickets now that linked to the event, and then another link that would link to the RSVP event, or they would maybe use a survey for the RSVP or something like that, which was a bit confusing because you're going to two different places for two different things. So that was a bit confusing for the user, and then definitely confusing for the admin to kind of understand who's where, what are they doing, things like that. So bringing it all in one place really kind of helps solve a lot of those more confusing issues. Okay, so now that we have kind of an idea of what it is that we're building, why we would want to build something like that, let's take a look at what we're going to be doing together today. So together today, we are going to be building an event that looks like this. So we are going to have an event. It has our title on it, all of our information. We have our attendee information. And then here we have our ability to buy tickets. I'm going to say, let's say I want 2 tickets here. And then I see I have these 2 options, RSVP and pay now. So if I click that, then I am brought to a page to add my billing information, my credit card information, as you would for anything that you would buy tickets to. But if I were to take the same 2 tickets and do RSVP and pay later, I am brought directly to a confirmation page. I've been RSVP'd for this event, and boom, we're done. So we're going to build out both those options in an event page. I will note that you'll see there's already some styling on this page. So this is inside a wrapper that I already have in my Luminate Online instance. I have kind of the logo at the top, my footer at the bottom. There's already some like button styling in here. So there is some kind of lifting I'm doing already, but we're going to be talking through some stuff that we can kind of do to get here. Okay, so let's take a look at what the back end looks like for this event. Oh, and I just got logged out of my LO, so let me just quickly log back in here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I am in the back end of this event, and we'll just quickly walk through all the different settings that I have here. So I'm on the event name. We'll fill in the event name. The wrapper I'm using is just a default wrapper. And then I'm going to choose for the registration page template, custom. Moving on to step 2, my event date. I have that set, my start and end time. Moving on to additional information. I have my address. I'm going to leave most of this stuff as default. But if you scroll down to the bottom here, number 8, I'm going to select, instead of the classic layout, I'm going to select modern. So that's going to give us a bit of a nicer layout there. And then another kind of fun thing that we like to do in all our events is on the additional information page, we add this script. So let's just take a look at what this script looks like in a code editor, just to make it a little bit easier to read. So basically, this is some jQuery, and it's saying basically when the page loads, click the buy tickets button. So what we have going on there, we do this on all our events, is let me just comment this out for a second. If I were to go back to my published page here, you'll see by default, I'm landing on this buy tickets page. So the view I'm landing on is the detailed page. If I comment this back in, what's going on is when I go to this published page, right away, it's pushing me to the tickets page. So by default, it's just clicking that next button and bringing me here so that there isn't two pages for this tickets page. It's just this one page for tickets. So that helps. And then we can just add all the information that we want for the tickets here. So that's a little fun thing we like to do on all of our events. And then other than this modern, we're going to move on to the next step. So we'll add our ticket information here. Again, we're just adding some additional details. Nothing special going on this page. Our confirmation message, again, we're just going to have some sort of confirmation message in there just to say thank you. And then we get to our ticket types. So this is where the magic starts to really happen. So in order to set up this pay now, pay later option, what we want to do is to have two matching ticket types. So you see I have an individual ticket and then a pay later ticket here. They are going to have the exact same settings in each of them, except for the individual one is going to have the price, and the pay later option is going to be $0. So if I pop into the individual one here, I'll see I have my price set to $10. My inventory limit is no limit. My limit per order is no limit. And that's basically it in here. And then if I go back to the pay later option, so it's the copied version, but with just a different price, you'll see all the settings are the same. So my inventory limit is not limited. My limit per order is not limited, but the price here is $0. So basically what we're going to do is use some code down the line to match these two up so that when, depending on the button people click, we're going to purchase different tickets. So that's really where the magic is happening here. Okay, so moving on, we have our registration questions. We'll leave that as is. And then number 8, include questions. So this is where we like to add our custom JavaScript or CSS for an event, specific event. So if I pop into this question, you'll see I have just a caption area here where I can add in some HTML. And what I'm doing is just pulling in a reusable. And then this reusable is going to be where all my CSS and JavaScript lives. So I like to pull this in as a reusable rather than putting my code right in here because the page builder pages have versioning in them. So I can actually version my code, whereas this page doesn't. So that really helps kind of keep my code clean. Okay, so let's take a look at that page builder page. So I have that open right here. So my events underscore ticket underscore RSVP underscore CSS underscore JS. So that's this page here. So what we were looking at before, what we see here is the final version. Let's publish the start here version. So I'll refresh my page at the start here version and we'll see a couple of different things here. So first of all, if I scroll down, I see this big table of tickets that I've already purchased. I see both the individual and the pay later option here. I see this available and limit tables showing up. And then I see my buttons here. Oh, and it looks like the code I have it. I shouldn't be seeing these, but I think my start here code probably already is pulling in some code. So I should just be seeing these buttons. Okay, so let's dive deeper into that JavaScript and CSS code to see what's going on to make all that magic happening. Because clicking on these buttons right now, you'll see absolutely nothing is happening. Even if I have tickets in here, nothing is happening because I haven't actually written any JavaScript or anything to make this work. Okay, so let's open up that file. So I'm going to edit the content here. And I'll pull that into my text editor here. Great. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of commented out code, and we're going to go through what's going on here line by line, adding it into our file as we go and see how it comes to life. So note how I already said, oh, look, there's some pay now buttons already on the page. That's because I already have some jQuery here pulling in those buttons. So let's start at the very top of the page. Basically, I have a script tag. And inside that script tag, I am calling just on page load, do everything that's inside this on page load here. So I am using jQuery here. I already have jQuery loaded into my wrapper, so that's how I can use jQuery. And to create the two fake buttons for pay now and pay later, I have jQuery that's appending, so I'm inserting after two buttons to the form. So I have the first button, that's this here with the ID of pay now, a couple of classes to get some styling going. The type is button, and that's our RSVP and pay now button with the ID of pay now. And then our second button here, it has the ID of pay later, and it has a couple of styling classes there again. And that's being inserted into inserted after the form. Cool. So I have the buttons on my page. I have those there. Next up, what we want to do is find the input value or the inputs for pay now and the inputs for pay later. So that's these two. Basically, we're grabbing the ID of both of these quantity sections. So if I were to inspect element here, I'll see the quantity of the ID of this, that's ID ticks quantity 1, and then the ID of this, that's ticks quantity 2. And I'm adding, I'm creating variables for both of those. So my pay now ticket is equal to this, my pay later ticket is equal to that. I'm also going to create a function that clicks this next button. So I want to, if I were to click this RSVP and pay now, what is going to happen behind the scenes is this next button is clicked. So what that looks like is I have a function named move to the next step, or move to next step, where basically that RSVP underscore save is clicked. So that's the ID of that button. And I just have that wrapped in a set timeout because I want to make sure all the other stuff that's going on down here happens first before that button is clicked. So I just want to put a little timeout around that. We'll leave these two things commented out for now. We'll comment them back in later if we have time. They're just more for visual things. But let's start looking at what happens if pay now is clicked. So I'm going to comment this back in here, but I'll just take out these donuts. So basically, if our pay now button is clicked, what we're looking to do is if this pay now button is clicked, then at some point this second one is going to be hidden. So it's just going to be this one column here. So if this button is clicked, then we don't really have to do anything fancy. if this button is clicked, it's going to be basically the same thing as this next button being clicked. So all we have to do is just click that next button to move to the next step. So that's what we're doing. We're saying if there's a value in the quantity box there for pay now, then move to the next step. Nothing special going on there. The real magic is happening here. So if pay later is selected, let's just hide those donuts again. So if pay later is selected, this one here, then what we're going to do, so if I were to have entered 10 tickets here, then we're going to use jQuery to grab the amount here, move it to this box, and then set this box to 0. So we're going to move the amount from the $10 option to the $0 option, move it up here, and then set this to 0 so that there is no actual amount owed. We'll just kind of click next again, and that'll move straight to the confirmation page rather than the amounts page. So our jQuery looks like this. So again, we're saying if the pay now ticket value is bigger than 0, then get the value of the pay now tickets and move that to the pay later ticket input. And then get the pay now ticket value and set it to 0. So all of that's kind of doing that. And then we're going to click the move to the next step button. So we're going to run that move to the next step function there. Okay, so we have all this code. Let's just kind of input what we have so far and see what's going on. All right, so now we have some functionality built for our RSVP and pay now. So if I put 10 tickets in here and click RSVP and pay now, you'll see we're moving to this billing information page because we're buying 10 tickets at $100. We have to enter our credit card information. Great, that's working as expected. Now, let's see if we enter 10 tickets here and then click the RSVP and pay later box. What we should see is we should quickly see this 10 jump up to here. And this set to 0 before we move to the next page. So if I click that, oh, boom, we saw that. And then, yep, we're moved to the next page and we are confirmed. Great. So we have the functionality all built out there, which is great. So now all we need to do is do some styling changes so that it's a little bit less confusing for the user. So we're going to hide the pay later box. So we're going to, just open my Slack there, whoopsies. We're going to hide this box here. So I find hiding things in the Luminate Online event module can be a little tricky because nothing really has classes on it. So we're going to use jQuery to do it. We're basically going to get the pay later ticket. So that's, remember we set that to this. And then we're going to find its parent, and then we're going to find that parent and then hide it. So basically, if we look at the code, we're going to find this pay later ticket. That's this input here. We'll find its parent. That's this TD. And then we'll find its parent, which is this TR here. And that's that row. And then we're going to hide that. So that's how we're hiding that pay later option. So if I put this in, then we'll see that pay later option gone, which will be nice. A little bit less confusing. We just have the one option here. And then something I like to do as well is change my ticket input. So the input that shows up here to a number instead of a value. So instead of me being able to write hello in here, I should just be able to write numbers. And I get like a nice up and down scroller by doing that. So I'm going to just add that in. Okay, so now if I refresh, I should see this nice little scroller that I can go up and down with. So that makes this a little bit easier to use. And that's simply by changing that input to type equals number. And then the last little bit we're going to do is we're going to use some CSS. So inside my style tags here, we're going to use some CSS to hide some things. So we want to hide all these buttons. So I found the ID of each of these buttons. So you'll see each of these buttons have an ID on them. I'm going to hide all of them. So I'm just going to comment this in. So we have our RSVP save, reset, cancel. We're going to hide that as well as our back. And then I'm also here hiding that previous ticket container. So this whole big container here that showed me what I've already bought, I'm going to hide that as well. Just because it looks so much like this, I find it kind of confusing to look at. So I'm going to hide that as well. So let's just put that in there. Great. So now I have that container gone. Oh, well, that's not what that was for. Oh, here we go. But I do have all those tickets gone, or sorry, buttons gone here. I think that must be down here. I'm mixing myself up. So we're going to clean up some cells. Okay, so here what I'm doing is grabbing this available and limit cells, and I'm hiding those because I find that information not that useful. So it's kind of just to clean things up and make it clear. I'm hiding those. And again, with Luminate Online, you kind of just have to use some like CSS magic to find the different cells. So I'm basically finding the heading, the third heading, and the fourth heading, and then the third cell and fourth cell. So I'm using some CSS to hide that. And here is that previous purchase in event history. So that's where I'm hiding that big box there. So let's paste that in. Okay, so now we have that big thing gone. We have our unnecessary information gone. And now we just have a funny layout here. So I'm using some Flexbox to fix that. So basically I'm grabbing all of my TRs, T-bodies, and tables, changing them to display flex, making them a width of 100, and then making sure that everything inside of them is growing big enough. So let's just throw that back in again and seeing what we have. Perfect. Perfect. So now my table is nice and big and looking good. The last thing I want to do here before I feel like this is kind of closer to done is you'll see that if I add 10 tickets in here and then click RSVP and pay later, you'll see that you can actually visually see this change because we have that set timeout. Which I don't love because I don't like that people can like be like, hey, what happened? Because if I click this, you'll see, oh, it went to 0 and then I'm moving to the next page. So I don't think that's the best user experience. So I already have, if you saw when that page loaded, it was a bit of a donut that loads before the page loads. So I have a donut already available. It's just made with CSS. So what I'm going to do is when people click any of the pay now or pay later buttons, I'm going to show that donut, and I'm only going to kind of hide it again if there's a mistake on the form. So if they don't have any ticket values there. So I have a couple of functions here. I have the show donut function, which is hiding the main content and then showing my donut. And then I have my hide donut button that is, again, bringing back in the main content and hiding the donut. So let's kind of bring those donuts onto our buttons. Okay, and now if I paste this back in, we'll see that if I add 10 tickets here, rather than us seeing that quickly jump to 0, the second I click this RSVP and pay later, the donut will pop up. So I click that, but the donut pops up. So I don't see any kind of funky things going on behind the scenes before I'm brought to the next page. So that is how we built this page. I promised that I would share my email. So that's my email there. If you wanted to kind of get that final code version, I'm happy to send it to you if you want to kind of deep dive more. And let me pop into the Q&A and see what the questions look like.
Sarah, we have a question from Kyle Booth, wondering if there's any advantage to triggering a button click as opposed to a location redirect on the additional details page.
Yeah, good question. I don't. I guess, you know what? I guess the reason we do that instead of the location redirect is the location redirect generally needs to know like the actual URL that you're going to, whereas the button click, you can copy and paste that to any event you're building in any Luminate Online instance. If the Luminate Online instance URL changes, it won't affect it. So it kind of safeguards your code a little bit more that way. Whereas the, oh, I see that there is a typo in my email. Thank you for pointing that out, Guy. Yes, it should be Sarah at doinggoodagency.com. Sorry about that. Let's fix that right now. Coding on the fly here, guys. But yes, so the redirect, I think the clicking the button would be better than the redirect because it'll just be a little future proof. We have a lot of clients that like maybe they're not on SSL right now, and then they're moving to SSL, which means every single URL in their Luminate Online instance will change. So you want to like really think about where you're putting in real URLs versus just doing like enough to get either a relative URL or just click a button that will exist no matter what the URL is on the page.
Awesome. I have a second question from Yvonne. How would this be reflected in Razor's Edge? Could the pay later option be imported to Razor's Edge as a pledge rather than a gift? Is there a possibility to auto-generate the invoice, particularly for sponsorships?
Ooh, Judy, this may end up being a question that you can answer better than me. I'm not as experienced in bringing this all into Razor's Edge. What I will tell you is like what we are doing behind the scenes is running reports on those. Basically, anyone who bought, of course, that $0 ticket is just buying a ticket class. So then you can do different things with that ticket class that they've bought. And then how that gets pulled into Razor's Edge, that I unfortunately don't have the answer to.
That's fair, and Yvonne will follow up with BB Dev Days, the email bbdevdays@blackbaud.com. But if this is something that can end up into CSV or an Excel doc, then yes, we can go ahead and have it imported into Razor's Edge. You could choose the gift type at that point. I'm sure there's also flows that could be available. All right, that's what I see for questions. We do have time for another one if there are any additional questions. And while we wait, I just want to take a minute. I do want to say thank you, Sarah. We're not quite done yet, but we definitely appreciate your expertise and sharing what you have today. Also, if you've attended to any seminars, I'm sure you've heard that we're going to launch a survey in a moment or two. In the presenters with the most survey results actually get entered into the possibility for a golden ticket to BBCon. So they will be invited to present at BBCon as well. So I encourage you to fill out the survey so that Sarah has an opportunity to win a golden ticket.
Great. Well, thanks everyone so much for joining. Great to meet you all.
Kyle, thank you for sharing. I'll go ahead and launch that survey. If you could take a minute, it's just 4 questions. Thank you.